This absolute unit of a man right here is Alvor. I'm sure you've met him before or at least come across him here in Riverwood. He works here as the local blacksmith, which might help explain his massive arms, but what about the rest of the body he walks around with? Does that actually make any sense, or is it just purely video game nonsense? Well, I've put it on myself to go around all of Skyrim to answer the question that's undoubtedly been on your mind as well as my own since 2011. Why and how on Nern are all of these dudes so freakishly massive? Last time we followed our buddy Farkas here and uncovered some very interesting results. Now this time the plan is to put Alvor in our sights and follow. Consensually. Follow him around consensually for the next 24 hours to see how exactly he gets so damn anabolically swole. What we want to know is whether or not he lives up to our 3 fundamental pillars in order to look this damn jacked and ripped. What are these 3 pillars, you ask? Well, the first one is, of course, and say it with me now, the workout itself. Yeah, you got it, buddy. Good job. I kind of feel like Dora the Explorer right now, but like adult Dovahkiin style. In order to become a living mass monster of pure muscle and testosterone, we of course have to actually work out our muscles, which means we're really just looking for things and movements in his day-to-day life that could put his muscles under tension. Also, this is Skyrim. I doubt he's actually gonna start bench pressing this cart of cabbages right here. I just want to see if there's anything that indicates him being so damn freakishly massive as he is. Also, who spilled out all the cabbages? What the hell is going on here? Like, why are they all under the cart? The next pillar we need to check off is, of course, nutrition. We want to see if Alvor eats like a mukbang YouTuber shoveling down treats and snackies all day, or if he actually eats a bit more varied. Ideally, what I'd like to see is a diet consisting of a few bits of healthy fats, probably equaling around 15 to 20% of his daily macros. Then, I'd love to see a good amount of protein in his diet, this time taking up probably around 35 to 40% of his daily macros. And lastly, we need a good amount of carbs to fuel our body for future workouts and all the work I assume he's going to be doing at his forge all day. And here I'm hoping to see a nice 40 to 45% of his daily macros. The world of Skyrim is chock full of protein-rich, amazing food, so it shouldn't be that difficult to hit our protein goals. I am actually really excited to see what kind of diet Alvor has, and my fingers are crossed that he at least does better than our buddy Farkas did. And lastly, on our 3 fundamental pillars for muscle growth, we have sleep. Sorry for the whispering here, but I'll have to be quiet as to not wake up Alvor. But sleep is a really important factor to muscle growth and is often the most neglected and overlooked part of the process. The sleeping period is where our body uses all the nutrition we've eaten throughout the day and uses it to build up and repair our body for later, and thus turning it all into muscle. Hopefully. If you've been a good boy and eaten well, at least. Now let's move somewhere else before I wake up Alvor here and ruin all his gains for the day. So in order to check this part off the list, I'd like to see at least 7 hours of sleep, but ideally more like 8 or 9 hours. Obviously, this is simplifying the aspect of building muscle a little bit. A lot of factors could be in play here, like genetics or the cold that we have here in Skyrim, or even old gods or magic. Some old anabolic wizard named Lord Voldemort could have come across and cast Expecto Proteinium on all the Nords for some extra gains. What I'm trying to say here is that this is a fantasy world. Certain things might be happening that is a bit out of my area of expertise. Ah, shit! I hate Master Locks. But I loved hearing all your theories and feedback from the last video, so please, keep it coming. Damn, that smells good. Is it almost done yet? It's fucking freezing out here, dog. Sorry, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. It's not like a racist thing. It's just like where I'm from, it's like a thing, you know, like, hey, what's up, dog? I don't think he gets it. Before we get to the part where we consensually, of course, follow around Farkas and checks out his daily routine, we first need to see exactly what he's packing. Let's see what we're working with here. All right. Whoa, that's really big. Damn, Alvor. I wish I had calves that big. Damn. What are you looking at? What did you think I meant? Listen, it's not gay to look at big oiled up men's physiques, all right? And the chop action going on around here, it's completely irrelevant. right now. All right, okay, so, but what are we actually looking at here besides his really big calves? First of all, this guy got massive arms. His shoulders are popping, and his bicep is essentially the same size as his face. His straps are booming, and he has forearms I've only ever seen in my dreams at night. The veins on him is popping out like crazy, especially on his arms, which means he keeps himself lean enough for all of them to be visible. Typically, the first place for veins to be visible is on your arms. From his back, or even when stretching his arms out like this, he has clear markings from his tricep. This part, at least in my mind, does actually makes sense. He's a hard-working blacksmith. Of course, he'd have big and strong arms. Realistically, though, would you actually have arms this big from being a smith all day? Probably not. Unless you have 1 in a million genetics, no smith I've ever seen or met have had arms anywhere near those. And unless you're actually in the gym, eating right and getting your sleep meticulously like an actual bodybuilder, arms like these are a pipe dream for 99.9% of people. If we take a look at this man's midsection, we are shown a relatively small chest. We covered this a bit more in the last video, but a chest like this does actually make sense to me. It's difficult to naturally get those muscles under tension and develop a big chest, and it doesn't actually provide much in terms of like useful day-to-day muscle. Sure, you can bounce your pecs a bit and look good on the beach, but this is Skyrim. I don't think a hell of a lot of people are throwing beach parties around here. His back, though, is looking juicy and muscular. Carrying around ingots and heavy steel all day could potentially help with that. Even his lats are popping, which I'm theorizing could be due to hammering and banging on steel all day and getting some activation in there. You even see his obliques popping out down here and being very visible, which means this guy is definitely very damn lean. His abs are also very clearly visible and also very symmetrically structured, I might add. Moving down, his legs don't seem massive to me. It's definitely the weakest part of his body, but I do actually see some quad muscles down here and even some quad separation. I even see veins on his legs down here, which again, this indicates that he is really damn lean. He clearly has a bit of muscle here, but it's nothing like over-exaggerated like the rest of his body. I'm actually really curious to see if this is reflected in his workouts and day-to-day life later on. Lastly, we have his calves. We kind of covered this already. Yeah, they're pretty big and nice. I like those calves. Overall, this guy is an absolute fucking Chad. Holy shit. I mean, fuck, I'm at a loss for words here, man. If I didn't know better, I'd even go as far as to say that this guy is taking a little bit of naughty juice on the side to get this massive. Even with modern knowledge around nutrition, modern equipment, and science on our side, a physique like this, even for the most disciplined and dedicated natural bodybuilders, is pretty much fantasy and wishful thinking. However, I do have to admit that he is rocking a banging ass beard and some luscious thick hair that my bald ass head is very jealous of. So that's gotta boost his natural testosterone by at least 6, maybe 7%. He's clearly a very large and very lean, muscular man. He got clear veins on his delts, forearms, and biceps. You got visible obliques, popping abs. He even got veins on his damn legs. There's visible striations on his forearms and even some of his calves. Lighting definitely plays a role here, but this isn't some dad bod. This is a bodybuilder getting ready for a contest, being stage ready lean. His stomach, though, is protruding a little bit, but this could be exaggerated by his smaller chest, or, hear me out here, it could be the side effects of some certain naughty juice. Alright, we first meet Alvor in the Sleeping Giant Inn at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. Maybe he stayed up drinking all night. Maybe his wife sent him packing. I can't really tell you. But I proceed to accompany him home to observe his morning routine for what I can only assume is gonna be a day at the forge. It's immediately clear as we enter that Alvor is a family man. At home is his wife, daughter, and his nephew. This, to me, makes his physique even that much more impressive. Upholding your physique without kids and family members squatting at your house is already hard enough as it is. If you're managing to stay in shape and keep an impressive physique while also being a family man, that takes some damn work, and I can respect that a lot. At this point, I might have freaked out both Alvor and his family a bit, because this is the point where I stripped him naked. I mean, consensually asked him to strip naked in front of me and his family so that I could inspect his physique. While I do this, he's warming himself at the fireplace looking at a big pot of stew next to him. This kind of reinforces my idea and my headcanon of him prepping for some sort of medieval bodybuilding show. Kind of feels like he's using this as some sort of sauna in order to shed the last weight before making weight. However, he then proceeds to get dressed and go sit at the table and eat some breakfast with his nephew. Now, this is where things get really exciting. This is nutrition. This is food. First, we have to identify what exactly it is he's eating. I mean, he's clearly sitting in his chair with a piece of bread, just like his nephew, and just like every other NPC I've ever come across in Skyrim. But I'd like to imagine that with all the food available in Skyrim, they're eating a bit more varied than just bread, which is where I let the environment do the storytelling here. So what is Alvor actually eating here? Well, there's nothing really right next to him, but he did just spend the past 20 minutes drooling over a pot of stew, and he did just walk right past it in order to get seated. So I'd like to imagine that he grabbed a bowl of stew and got grubbing. But then what kind of stew is he actually eating here? Well, I took a look at this stew in the pot, and then I opened my only real trusted source of Skyrim cuisine, the official Skyrim cookbook. The cookbook shows off a list of 7 different stews and soups. And as I was paging through them, I saw the potato cheddar soup. It could kinda resemble the stew we have in the pot, but more importantly so, his entire house is filled with lots of cheese and potatoes. So I'd like to imagine that they use those ingredients to make this stew. So well, if we want to track his food and calories for the day, we'll need to know the nutritional values of this stew. So, well, what exactly is inside the soup then? Luckily for me, all the ingredients for this soup is on the side here in the cookbook, which lets me just do a little bit of mathematics, and I can quickly calculate the amount of macros and calories in his exact meal. The recipe is for 4 servings, but every man knows that 1 serving is meant for women and children, so he is probably more realistically having 2 servings. But for the sake of not adding too much of my own speculation and projection onto Alvor, we'll just assume that he's having the 1 serving here. Which means that the total macros comes down to 46 grams of carbs, 4 grams of fiber, 13 grams of protein, and 24 grams of fat, putting us at a total of 456 calories for the first meal of his day. This meal was pretty heavy on carbs, which does make sense. You want carbs to fuel the energy for the rest of your day. It was also quite heavy on fat, which is fine. That just means that ideally we'd like to see less fat-heavy meals throughout the day. The meal did only have a moderate amount of protein though. But this then brings us to our next question. How many calories would our boy Alvor actually need in a day? In order to answer that question, we first need to figure out his height and weight. In my previous video, I did some more math using the game engine's measurement system of in-game units in order to calculate that all Nords are the same height, and they're all standing at a height of 6'2". However, figuring out the exact weight of these guys is a bit more difficult. Alvor is a large man at 6'2", but he's also, at least from what I can tell, a lot leaner than Farkas was. I guesstimated Farkas to be around 205 pounds, which I still stand by. A lot of people seem to believe that he was a lot heavier than that, but lean muscle tends to skew people's perception of weight by quite a bit. I know, at least for myself, when I'm really lean, people tend to believe that I'm at least 20 pounds heavier than I really am. Let's do a quick experiment. In this video right here, what would you guess my weight to be? For context, I'm a 5'9" manlet, and I know it can be really difficult just to tell based on this, but if you want to, you can pause and try and make an educated guess for a second. My actual weight though here is 145 pounds. The leaner you are, generally the bigger you look. Within a certain range, of course, and also assuming that you actually have some lean muscle mass to show off. But my point is, I'd guesstimate Alvor here to be at least 10 pounds lighter than Farkas, which would put him at around 195 pounds. One thing I will say though is that last video I put Farkas at 22% body fat. I genuinely think I did him dirty on that. If I were to look back, I'd probably put him closer to like 15%, but honestly, it just makes the discoveries of that video that much more funny and absurd. Anyway, I'd guesstimate Alvor here to be in the 10% body fat range, maybe even moving into single-digit body fat percentage. He is very lean and has striations showing in various places, yet he's also lacking shoulder striations, chest striations, and so on. So it's a very rough guess, but that is my guess. But if we put this into practice, he would need around 2,800 calories a day in order to maintain his current weight and physique. The amount of calories needed is also massively different depending on genetics, body fat percentage, and the amount of muscles you carry. So getting an exact number in this scenario is near impossible, but this is what we'll go with. That means that his breakfast puts him at about 16% of his daily calories eaten. This actually seems like a pretty good start to the day. Personally, when I'm cutting, I tend to eat a very light or no breakfast at all, so that I can save the limited amount of calories I know I have available for later on in the day when the hunger really starts setting in. But realistically, looking this lean, this man will be hungry all day no matter what he does. He'll pretty much be walking around all day fighting the constant urge to just binge eat everything in sight. You might look amazing, but you do not feel amazing. He then proceeds to go have a chat with his daughter and his nephew while this platter of cheese is hanging on for dear life. While all of this is happening, I decide to rob them blind because I'm level 1 and I'm poor. At 8 a.m., Alvor gets up and says goodbye to his wife because he's heading out for the forge for the day, which she then celebrates by popping open a bottle of wine and having a drink. I'm starting to think maybe he was actually kicked to the curb for the night at the Sleeping Giants Inn. Anyway, I follow Alvor out to his forge where I already find him hard at work. And this is interesting. He's banging some metal at the workbench. Look at this. He's working out. That right there, that was 9 reps of banging metal. I'd imagine if you ask Jeff Nippert, he'll say that this isn't the most scientifically correct way to build muscle, but I don't care about that. I'm seeing a hard-working man earning his gains. I looked into it a little bit, and most blacksmith hammers weigh around 2 to 3 pounds. The exact hammer he's wielding in Skyrim has a weight value of 3, which, if that's in pounds, that lines up pretty well. So let's just assume that his hammer is 3 pounds. That's not exactly the heaviest thing in the world, but it is at least something. So while doing this, what would we actually be working here? Repeated hammer swings like these would definitely engage his shoulders, specifically his front and side delts. Depending on how much and how often he does this, it could certainly help explain why he has such massive boulder shoulders. When he moves his arm down to hit the metal he's working on with his hammer, he'd also for sure be activating some tricep as well. I mean, the movement itself is kind of similar to like a traditional tricep pull down. Looks like I'm jerking off some dude right now. The bicep would get involved too, since we have to rely on it for lifting and controlling the hammer while we work. Even the forearms would be included, since he has to grip the hammer tightly and keep it controlled while he works. You could even argue that he's activating his lats a little bit from constantly pulling and stabilizing the hammer. This means that this isn't actually that bad of an exercise in and of itself. We do, however, run into a few problems. He only ever really uses his right hand and side, but when we looked earlier, his physique was very even and symmetrical. It'll also be very difficult to progressively overload over time unless he starts using a heavier and heavier hammer. But I imagine Alvor is more focused on using the right tool for the job rather than building his muscles. As I left the house, I heard him banging the hammer 7 times. I can't know for certain if he was already mid-set, but let's count that as 7 reps of hammer swings. I then saw him do another 9 reps of hammer swings afterwards, followed then by another set of 11 hammer swings, followed then by another set of 13 hammer swings, only to top it off with a last set of 13 hammer swings more. That means he's done 5 sets of hammer swings, increasing the rep range almost every set. This is a bit unusual to me. Usually you'll go as hard and heavy as you can first and get as many reps in as possible, and then you'll automatically go lower and lower in rep range as you tire yourself out. It is also quite a lot of volume, but I don't think it's unheard of. He also does rest a bit between every set, but the rest period is very short, which could maybe indicate that this is more of a stamina-induced program rather than a strength-focused one. It could also just be his warm-up set for the day. I mean, it would help explain the lower rest times and increasingly higher reps for each set. Anyway, he then goes to the next machine, the forge itself. Here, he's holding the hammer in his right hand while pulling the bellows with his left arm. He proceeds to do 3 reps of bellow pulls and then grabs a piece of metal and does slightly hinged hammer swings for another set. 8 reps to be exact. This is again done with his right arm, which he just used at the workbench. There's quite a lot to go over here. The bellow pull seems pretty good, especially for his triceps. This is again pretty similar to a traditional tricep pull down. Now I'm pretty unsure on how damn heavy a bellow like that is to pull, but 3 reps isn't that much. I'd prefer for him to stay within the 8 to 12 rep range, but if it is really heavy, 3 reps is acceptable. He then proceeds to do another 3 reps of bellow pulls and then go straight into the hunched hammer swings. This time doing 12 reps. On one hand, it's kind of cool to see him do supersets like these. A superset, if you don't know, is when you do 2 exercises back to back with minimal rest in between. It's usually done at the end of a workout though, in order to blast through that last bit of energy you have left, or for busier folks in order to shorten the length of the workout itself. On the other hand, I'm not sure what Alvor's fascination is with the increased reps every set, and I don't really subscribe to that philosophy. Speaking of subscribe, I'd like to take a second here to thank everyone who's not just watching now, but also watched my last video. The fact that it, as of me writing and recording this, is sitting at 72,000 views is mind-boggling to me. I went from 145 subscribers and no uploads for over a year to 1,500 now. Who knew people would be down for me to artistically go around and break down the nutrition, workout, and sleep of video game characters? But seriously, a genuine and heartfelt thank you to every single one of you. Now let's get back to Alvor. The hunched hammer swings are more or less the same as before, except this time maybe with slight worse form for his back. He then does 12 more reps of these, only to then do another 8 reps. I'm unsure what exactly is going on here, to be honest, but with the amount of reps he's pulling, he could go a lot heavier and get a lot closer to failure with a lot fewer reps. He then finishes off the machine with a single bellow pull. Next up, we got our third machine, the tanning rack. This exercise seems like it would give a massive forearm pump, but other than that, I don't see too much more involvement. Sure, he's moving his arms and getting some sort of shoulder and bicep activation, but I don't think this is really heavy or straining enough to really activate any hypertrophy for muscle growth. The way his torso moves though could potentially work out his obliques a bit and strengthen his core. I definitely think this exercise could help explain his massive forearms and his midsection a bit more. Either this is a really easy exercise or Alvor has the endurance of a Greek god, because he then proceeds to do 86 reps in a single set with no breaks. He even does it one-handed at certain points, and he never switches arms at all. He then proceeds to go hit another 5 sets of hammer swings until he approaches his last machine, the grindstone. This right here is another very interesting exercise. As you can see, his foot is moving the pedal down here, making the stone turn, which means he's definitely activating his calves, his quads, and maybe even his glutes a bit. Besides that, holding the blade steady against the resistance of the grindstone is sure to work out his forearms even more than he already has. This could certainly help explain the bit of quad muscle and the big calves we inspected earlier. He then proceeds to spam this for a solid 89 reps with no breaks. I think this machine is more akin to like a modern exercise bike, maybe going slightly uphill. These machines manages to hit a wide variety of muscles, but he only really works out one side of his body. His ability to progressively overload on these exercises is also a bit limited. But how much does Alvor actually train? Now this is where it gets a bit freaky and a little bit nutty. I swear this guy is some reincarnation of Rich Piana with his 8-hour arm workouts. Cause Alvor here, he spends the next 12 hours in the gym non-stop. No rest for food, hydration, or toilet breaks, nothing. He even raw dogs his workout without AirPods. Like, dog, come on, Sven is right over there in the inn, banging on his drums, playing music. At least pay him to come over and like give you some, I don't know, Katy Perry to listen to. But I stayed and I watched every single rep, every single set, and let me tell you, Alvor don't mess about. He did a total of 24 sets of hammer swings ranging between 1 to 13 reps, with a total rep count of 220. He then did 8 sets of bellow pulls, supersetted into 11 sets of hunched hammer swings. He did 8 sets of dagger racks for a total of 551 reps. Mind you, most of these are done in one single set every single time, with an average of 69 reps per set. Nice. And then lastly, we got 9 sets of blade sharpeners for a total of 877 reps. Again, just like with the dagger racks, all done in a single set with no breaks, averaging a total of 97.5 reps per set. I don't even know what to say here. This man does this shit every single day, dude. This guy shouldn't be looking like this. He should be looking more like this. Even if we pretend that he should theoretically survive this on a daily basis, the sheer amount of volume here is pure nonsense. If we put this into a real life scenario, it is of course way better to do a much shorter workout where you go really hard with the ability to rest and eat up afterwards, rather than stretching the workout out for 12 hours where you overexert yourself and keel over and die from exhaustion. Yes, I am aware that he is a blacksmith and that this is technically his job, but this man hasn't drank anything in the day yet, and he hasn't eaten anything besides his little bowl of soup in the morning. In the scorching heat of his own furnace, this man should probably have keeled over from exhaustion and dehydration at this point. Anyway, after his 12-hour gym session, he then heads home at 8 p.m. As I head inside, I see him seated at the table. Alvor then obviously, understandably, picks up a tankard of some sort of beverage as the first thing. You know that feeling of waking up at 4 a.m. in the night and you go to the fridge in order to chuck down some ice cold water? I cannot imagine the pure bliss this man must be feeling after getting the first ounce of liquid in his body after being tirelessly working out for 12 hours straight in the scorching heat of his own forge. But what exactly is Alvor drinking? I can't actually see what's inside his cup, so just like with the bread earlier, I'll let the environment do the storytelling here. And well, the only thing we got nearby is alcohol, specifically wine. This isn't exactly what I'd love to see after a hard day at the gym. I'd probably prefer to see something non-alcoholic, considering how bad alcohol is for your gains. Last time I counted a tankard of wine to be about 400 calories, but a lot of you guys pointed out to me that in medieval times it was very normal to mix alcohol with water. They did this in order to clean some of the bacteria out of the water. They didn't exactly know that, but that's what it did. They didn't yet have the knowledge of boiling the water before drinking it to make it safe. What this means though is that this wine right here is probably a lot less concentrated than I originally thought. I did a little bit of searching and digging, and most sources I found told me that it was pretty normal to do 1/3 wine to water ratio, which means that this tankard of wine right here is probably closer to 135 calories rather than 400. He then proceeds to drink his wine. The cheese platter from earlier has now morphed itself into Farkas, clinging on to him for the rest of eternity. Just kidding, it frees itself from Alvor's anabolically swole arm and returns to the floor, just as Alvor leaves his family behind to head to the Sleeping Giant Inn only an hour after returning home. As I enter the inn, I have a hard time locating Alvor, but I find him in a room, hidden away, where he's sitting in a chair staring at the wall menacingly. As I sit here for a bit and observe Alvor, it kinda dawns on me. I am in the bed right now with Delphine standing right over there looking at me, and Alvor is not actually staring at the wall. He's looking at the bed. I think Alvor is seated in the infamous hotel cuck chair. No fucking wonder he sleeps at the inn every night. I kid you not. He then gets up, looks at me, and tells me,
"Take what you need, my friend."
Alvor, listen, buddy. I'm not gonna sleep with your wife, okay? After getting a firm no, Alvor then proceeds to the alchemy table. I also had no idea that Alvor was a man of science. Next up, he sits down next to Sven while he performs some music. And here he has his second meal of the day. I mean, it's only what, 14 hours after his first meal? He then pulls out a piece of bread. And, well, the only thing really around here on the tables is actually bread. So for this ones, he might just be actually eating bread. So we return to our trusted official Skyrim cookbook. And after doing some math, I discover that half a loaf of Skyrim bread consists of 282 grams of carbs, 31 grams of fiber, 54 grams of protein, and 44 grams of fat, equaling a total of 1,802 calories. Eating half a loaf of bread makes him feel a bit parched, so he then goes and sits down to drink another tankard of diluted wine. After finishing up his wine, he then heads home at 11 p.m. At home, his wife is heading into bed as he sits down and drinks another cup of wine. He then mingles a bit with his nephew and daughter before going to bed at 12 a.m. How However, he for some reason decides not to get into bed with his wife, but rather steal his daughter's bed, leaving her to stay up all night because she has no place to sleep now. I honestly ended up learning a lot more about Alvor and his living situation than I would have liked during this. I don't know exactly what's going on between Alvor and his wife, but they might have to go seek out the Greybeards for some marriage counseling or something. However, while Alvor sleeps soundly in his daughter's bed, I have a peek around the place. I understand that him and his wife are going through some things at the moment, but the food he has around his house looks really damn nice. And it would be a perfectly suitable diet for him. I mean, we got cheese, bread, potatoes, vegetables, hunted rabbits, eggs, and salmon. This dude got a bodybuilder's dream diet in his house right here. But while snooping around, I came across something rather peculiar down in the cellar, down in the basement, hidden away from everyone. I actually found something that could help explain Alvor's physique a bit more. You remember how earlier he was at the alchemy table at the inn? Well, I found something rather interesting here. You see this? Blacksmith's potions. You cannot convince me that anyone in this house but him consumes those. He's even cooking them up himself. This guy got homebrewed testosterone right here, dog. He swigs this down and doesn't think anyone would notice. But no, Alvor, I did. I noticed. He is anabolically enhanced, my friends. Anyway, Alvor then proceeds to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, meaning he got 6 hours of sleep. Phew, this is a lot to take in. Alvor's family issues aside, there is a lot to dissect here. At first, we estimated Alvor's daily caloric intake to be at around 2,800 in order to maintain his physique, which we actually gets pretty damn close to, ending up at a total of 2,663 calories eaten for the day. Earlier I mentioned that I'd like to see his macros be split to about 15% fat, 40% protein, and 45% carbs. He ended up at 68% carbs, 14% protein, and 18% fat. That certainly leaves a lot to be desired in the protein department. I'm not too happy with this. However, regarding his caloric intake, with the now added knowledge of him working tirelessly for 12 hours a day, I'd bump those 2,800 calories up a hell of a lot higher. I honestly have no fucking clue what 12 hours of blacksmithing would burn in a day in terms of calories. But I can tell you that the 2,663 calories he's consumed is not gonna cut it. It could explain why he's so damn lean, but this is just wild. Which leads me to make the decision that the nutrition of his doesn't live up to our 3 core pillars on how to be jacked. Next up, we got the workout. I mean, he did actually work out, and the blacksmithing work he did would put a lot of his muscles under tension, which could very well help explain why he's so damn jacked. Would it make him this jacked, looking like some perfectly sculpted bodybuilder or Greek statue? Probably not. But with him being a Nord and him getting some anabolic assistance from his alchemy, I can let it slide. One thing though, he only ever really works out his right side. So I don't know if like instead of traditional splits of like upper and lower body or push-pull legs, maybe he has like a right and left side, like I don't know. But whatever, this is Skyrim. He has more than earned the stamp of approval on working out in order to gain his muscles. Lastly, we got sleep. He did sleep for 6 hours, which cuts it close, but it doesn't really live up to my standard for the 3 pillars. In order to really grow and get as much out of your workout as possible, you really do need a lot of sleep. It could be a fluke. Maybe he does sleep more usually when he's not bordering a divorce with his wife. But it's gonna be another negative from me here, which means he does only manage to get 1 out of the 3 pillars right. So I'd say that if you were to live like Alvor on a daily basis, you would not look like him, because realistically, his physique just makes no damn sense. I'm Koth. It was a pleasure, and thank you for watching. Boop!